So I don't know if you remember, but the Toronto Raptors, they're in the NBA final.
Yes, and I don't know if you remember, but when they first were announced as a franchise, they didn't have a name yet.
They sure didn't. The year was 1994. The Toronto Star ran a contest to name the franchise.
It's so funny to picture that now. Like, imagine, I don't know, just the paper, how big the team is now.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
And it all came right from there.
Yeah.
But they got lots and lots of submissions. They then published those submissions. And, you know, from there, they picked 10. And from there was a voting. And we landed on Raptors. But we wanted to go back today and look at the 16 best names that were actually put up and actually published by the Toronto Star as names that have been submitted that they chose. Yes, we will choose to publish those names. And from there, figure out what the best name for Toronto's basketball franchise is.
Now, did they just publish every single name that got submitted, or did they filter some of it?
Unclear.
Because this is just, they didn't specify that in this information that was provided online today.
And I love it all. I love it all.
They only endorsed the 10 that people were allowed to vote on.
Yes, absolutely.
Make that.
Yeah, those were the 10 that they actually put out there and said, here, vote on these. So not all of these made their cut, but they did get submitted actually as potential names for this team. And the Toronto Star did actually publish them as potential names that people had come up with.
And they are the top 16 in our hearts.
So without further ado, let's get right into this. The 1 versus the 16. Let's see if we can have an upset right off the get-go. The 16 seed Toronto Canadian A's taking on the 1 seed, the Torontosaurus Rex.
See, that is awesome, and that should be their name.
That is a far better name than Raptors. It's got the same feel as Raptor does. It gets the same message across, but it's also an awesome pun. I love it.
Torontosaurus Rex. It's awkward to, what do you say, like, go Saurus Rexes? Or
well, do you say go Canadian A's? That's a dumb name.
It is. No, I'm not. And
it's got a misplaced apostrophe right there in between the EH and the S. It's a dumb name. They should feel bad for suggesting it, and Torontosaurus Rex wins.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. As long as we're all on the same page here. Saurus Rex. The 8 and the 9.
There's a bit of a theme to this one.
It's all Star Wars here, / World War II. The 8 seed Skywalkers taking on the 9 seed Stormtroopers.
Not necessarily a name you want your franchise associated with.
Yeah, Luke was pretty whiny. So, and I mean, they didn't know that the Phantom Menace would come out yet in 1994, but they should have had an idea. And, you know, it could have ended pretty badly if they went with Skywalkers.
Yeah, no, I mean the Stormtroopers.
Yeah, they couldn't shoot at all. It's terrible to get your team off the ground like that.
That is what they called the German military.
Oh, I was sticking with Star Wars in my heart.
Yeah.
What's the better team name? Skywalkers or Stormtroopers?
I'm going with Skywalkers just because it doesn't have the association with it.
Whatever, Skywalkers. You were pretty for the Germans here a few weeks ago with your Germany jersey on, and now you're like, no Germans.
It's not like my jersey said the German Third Reichs.
I mean, it might as well have, Phil. The 4 seed, Cool Cats. That is with K's. Cool Cats taking on the 13 seed, Killer Whales.
See, one's an alliteration instead. Is that not an alliteration? What's the word for that?
Alliteration.
Alliteration.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've got an adjective and an animal name in both of these.
But one just sounds better.
And one chose to spell their name correctly.
Yeah. So it could have been the Killer Quails. Would have sounded better.
I mean, does the Toronto Killer Whales make sense as a basketball team?
No. Or the Toronto team, are Killer Whales associated with Toronto?
I mean, we've got the aquarium. It doesn't have any killer whales in it.
I'm sure there's lots of cats in Toronto.
And they're probably even pretty cool. I'm a little worried about the K's.
Yeah, it looks so 90s. I don't know.
But you know what year this was?
The 90s.
Yeah, I mean 94 specifically. 90s aren't a year.
The 90s are the year.
I'm going with Cool Cats.
Yeah.
We've got all the top seeds so far. The 5th seed, in quotations, Dons, taking on the 12th seed, Terriers.
Terriers are not intimidating animals.
Now, here's the thing. The Terriers actually made that list of 10 final
sure
names.
did.
That was actually voted on. Now, Dons, it's unclear what Dons is referring to or why it's in quotations.
I know whenever someone says, hey, do you want some Dons? Normally means McDonald's. McDonald's, slide into the DMs.
Or, like, it could mean mafia bosses. Mafia bosses, slide into the DMs.
It could mean Donald Cherry.
Don, I don't need you in my DMs, actually.
No.
So
It'd probably be something in all caps and xenophobic.
Yeah, exactly. You look vaguely Eastern European, and then something offensive after that. But I don't know. Toronto Terriers.
It's an alliteration.
It is, and Toronto Dons
Is not.
Are we going with Terriers? Do we have our first upset here?
I don't know. We'll
Well,
see.
Toronto Terriers. Moving on. That's too deep. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Into the bottom half of the bracket, the 2 seed, the Toronto John Candy, taking on the
Rest in peace.
taking on the 15 seed Toronto Tall Boys.
One is very literal. It's basketball players, they're tall, and these ones are all going to be boys, so it's the tall boys.
Now, I would like to believe they're only referring to beer here, and this is purely a beer versus John Candy argument. But one, again, is an alliteration, whereas the other is a beloved Canadian actor. So, I don't know.
How would you cheer? It would be like, go boys, go, or it would be go Candy, go.
Well, I mean...
Or go John Candy, go. Let's go.
Go John Candy, go!
Go John Candy, go.
It rolls right off the tongue.
John Candy.
John Candy. All
JC
animal
himself.
matchup, 7 versus 10. The Beavers taking on the Raccoons. Now, the Beavers actually made the final 10 as well.
But see, I think if this was made now, Raccoons would do better because everyone remembers.
Hashtag
Raccoon.
dead TO Raccoon.
Yeah.
Dead Raccoon TO. I
And-
mean, it's got history.
It's widely known around the world. It's world renowned.
And so really, imagine how much more famous that raccoon would have been if the raccoons already existed.
That would have been really funny.
Exactly. And I mean, it wasn't a beaver on the side of the road, as hilarious as naming your team the Beavers would have been.
But the other thing is, one's far more Canadian.
True, raccoons are everywhere. Beavers are only in dams.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think the raccoons have to move on.
Wait, what?
You said it, so one's far more Canadian.
Cyril Sneer is going to be real mad about that. That's a 90s cartoon reference right there. 80s? That's an old cartoon.
The 3 seed, the Thunder Ducks, taking on
Yes.
the 14 seed Mighty Dunks.
The one's more clever, but the other one's the Thunder Ducks. And that is just awesome.
I mean, the Toronto Thunder Ducks is pretty intimidating.
Like a Pokemon would be a Thunder Duck. I don't
Yeah,
know. Like
yeah.
if Psyduck was a electric type.
And I mean, you can't tell me there's going to be any Pokemon named Mighty Dunk.
No.
So, I mean, that would just be a dumb name for a Pokemon.
And it's too much of a ripoff of the Mighty Ducks.
Exactly. Who already made a perfect movie and then made a crappy follow-up called D3. So,
And we could make a movie about the Thunder Ducks.
you could. It
I
would be
would-
called Thunder Duck.
Definitely watch a movie about Thunder Ducks, like
Yeah.
a whole flock of them.
Exactly, like at least 6. So Thunder Ducks. Moving on, which brings us down to the 6 versus the 11. We've got the Toronto Blue Basketballs taking on the Toronto Trojans.
One's defense would probably be better,
Probably.
and they are a defensive team this year.
And one just would not be able to score. And so, I mean,
Yeah,
it's a toss-up.
I think it is, but
One fits the modern Toronto Raptors, though.
yeah, I think that's what we got to base this off of.
Exactly, protect the paint. I'm going with the Trojans.
Yep.
That brings us on to the Elite 8. We've got the 1 seed, Torontosaurus Rex, taking on the 8 seed, the Toronto Skywalkers.
Not the Skywalkers.
No, it's not the
It's the
Skywalkers.
Saurus Rex.
Saurus Rex soars on through. The 4 seed, Cool Cats, taking on the 13 seed, the 12 seed Terriers. Dogs taking on cats.
Normally I would take dogs, but I want to take cats in this one.
I mean, Terriers is lame compared to Cool Cats with
Exactly.
Ks.
I picture them wearing sunglasses
I mean, probably a backwards hat too.
and Yeah, exactly. I'm picturing like.
And like arms crossed, and that's their logo.
And then their theme song is like, everybody wants to be a cat. The cat's the only cat that knows where it's at. Is that
Are you
Aristocats
just
everyone?
dropping Aristocats references?
I am.
You gonna make us pay for Aristocats?
No, I didn't sing enough of it.
Let's sing for exactly 16 seconds. John Candy taking on Raccoons. There's a sentence. The Toronto John Candy versus the Toronto Raccoons.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know. Hashtag.
I mean,
The
both of
Toronto
them have
Raccoons.
died. Both
Yeah.
of them have been symbols of Canada.
Yeah, both of them put Canada on the map.
Both of them have been memorialized.
One is
Well.
Uncle Buck.
And one just
Died
exactly.
on a sidewalk.
So
John Candy it is.
John Candy it is. And the marquee matchup. The Toronto Thunder Ducks taking on the Toronto Trojans.
Thunder Ducks.
It is Thunder Ducks. I'm sorry, Trojans. You can't stop the Thunder Ducks, though. That means the top four all made it through to the Final Four. So here we are. One taking on the four, the Torontosaurus Rex.
Tyrannosaurus
Taking on the,
Rex.
I haven't even said the matchup, taking on the Cool Cats.
I'm sorry, Cool Cats. This is where it ends for you.
Saurus Rex. Now this is where my heart breaks. The Toronto John Candy versus the Toronto Thunder Ducks.
I'm sorry, John Candy.
Really, you're taking Thunder Ducks over John Candy.
Personally, it's the Thunder Ducks.
I'm with you. It's the Thunder Ducks.
That is a franchise I'd want. We're going to franchise this series. Like
Quack, quack, quack. The quack attack is back, Jack. And that brings us to the final. This is what we've been waiting for. The Torontosaurus Rex versus the Toronto Thunder Ducks.
This is so tough for me. Because, I mean, dinosaurs are really in back then. That was one of the things that was brought up on Twitter, was that, Jurassic Park just came out. Dinosaurs were kind of a thing. The NBA wanted them to be the dragons, which
That's
is
dumb.
Dumb, yeah.
Yeah, that would have lost in round one of this matchup. That would have lost the
Absolutely.
blue basketballs. I'm sorry.
But, they say that birds used to be dinosaurs.
But the Ducks?
Ducks are birds. So in a way, this is an all-dinosaur final, is what I'm getting at.
And so it all comes back to the Raptors, is what you're really saying.
Well, yes, we know that they chose the Raptors.
But which dinosaur comes out on top? A Saurus Rex
Or a
or
Thunder
a
Duck.
Thunder Duck?
I really want to see a Thunder Duck.
I'm going with Thunder Duck, to be honest. What's your vote? Are we making this unanimous, or are we fighting to the death?
We'll make it unanimous.
Toronto Thunder Ducks.
I really
Win
love
out.
the Saurus Rex. It just looks awkward when you only see it as Saurus
Exactly.
Rex.
Whereas if you have Thunder Ducks, imagine
It
that
stands
on
on
this
its own.
jersey. And just a picture, instead of the Raptor on the old purple and white jerseys, if it had been a Thunder Duck. Oh, like I'm picturing a duck holding a lightning bolt with just...
And dribbling a basketball on the other hand with like
Exactly.
lightning bolts kind of around it.
Sounds great.
Awesome.
And so really, we can't wait for the NBA Finals. Toronto Raptors, they're taking down the Warriors.
Let's go Thunder Ducks.
Thunder Ducks in 7. We're calling it right here, right now. I'm Elijah McEwen.
I'm Phil Hoffman.
This has been the Thunder Duck Wagon.
Thunder Ducks.